Hello everyone, today I wanted to talk about the best movies I watched on telekinesis, spirituality generally, and in this year. So let's start with the things that most of you might be interested in, which is the movies and series about telekinesis or psychic abilities generally. And I'm definitely not an expert on that. I definitely don't watch a lot of movies or series generally, especially in that theme. But there are certain of my favorites that I've watched so far, or in this year specifically, that I really enjoyed and I think were really worth watching. Now, obviously, I cannot mention here things like Stranger Things because I don't feel necessarily like this is the series about telekinesis itself. I feel like as much as it has the telekinesis and the phenomena of it in it, I don't feel like series like that really explain or help you understand the phenomena of it in the first place. If I can call it even phenomena, but generally the movies and series I'll be talking about will have a direct understanding behind in them, and they will actually help you spiritually connect to the idea of them and will have a certain spiritual effect on you. Starting out with my favorite movies of all time, I've watched it when I was quite little. I was probably like an early teenager, and I loved it since then. And the idea of it, even though back then I wasn't into those stuff, it still stayed with me even throughout my journey of discovering telekinesis, and it is obviously the movie Lucy. This is absolutely one of my favorite movies. I cannot get enough how much I like the idea behind it, and as much I have to agree that the idea of using your mind in 100% is not really scientifically correct. I would say try to look at it as using 100% of your consciousness. And that's how I would call it. I feel like the more I started getting into spirituality, the more this movie was changing in my point of view. And as someone experienced in it, I can tell you, try to look at it in the form of 100% of consciousness rather than mind. And I think like this point of view will really help you understand the telekinesis, consciousness, and spirituality itself way more. What is amazing about the movie of Lucy, it does not only cover the idea of telekinesis, but also biokinesis, also auras and everything really that you can think in a spiritual realm. I think it was such a good description of what happens if you use 100% of your consciousness to the point where the end of the movie brings you to the point where you actually get the spiritual enlightenment in a sense. Now, I don't want to spoiler too much, so just go and watch it and try to figure out your own opinion about the movie and how it feels to you and how it could help you in your spiritual understanding. Now, obviously, this movie will be taken by everyone in a completely different way, but for me personally, it just changed as much as I got into spirituality and the more I discovered, and I feel like it's such a great movie when it comes to that stuff and to understanding them deeper. It does not necessarily portray the knowledge behind it, but I feel like just the idea of the movie and the story itself kind of helps you understand it in a certain way. Now, the next movie I watched this year and I would really like to recommend, and that really I think had a great understanding behind it, is Powder. This movie is specifically about electrokinesis, or maybe with connection to weather manipulation. But basically, I think like it's such a heartwarming, nice movie that I feel the main character has really a great understanding behind telekinesis and generally connection to the universe and everything around us and reality. So I feel like it's not the typical superhero movie where it's just all about ability and ego and everything, but the character itself and main character actually has a connection to the abilities they have and the meaning behind it. And I feel like it's such a beautiful, more of a realistic viewpoint on those things rather than any superhero movie that there is out there. I feel like it was definitely worth watching. The movie is very light and very easy to watch, so I feel like it was very nice experience generally, and I would watch it again. So if you watched it, let me know how is your opinion about it. What do you feel? I feel like the character really nicely explained the feeling behind it. Also, there's a little bit of empathy in it, so if you're an empath and someone who is into those abilities, then definitely the main character will also resonate with you. I feel like the main character is just very beautiful, and it really resonates with how I feel about things myself. So I really recommend that movie. Now, the next series or ever anime I would recommend about telekinesis, psychic abilities, of course, Mob Psycho 100. It's one of my favorites anime ever. And it's basically about this high school boy who has this psychic powers. It's a very light series, it's a very funny one. I really love the characters in it, so if you run into anime and those psychic abilities, then I would really recommend Mob Psycho 100. The fourth season, I think, is coming out in October or so, if I remember correctly, so maybe then it will be a great time to watch it when the next season comes out. But generally, it's just one of my favorites anime in that theme, mostly also because the main character is now also not a superhero, and they're not into the egoistic idea of their abilities, and it's quite the opposite as much as Powder is. So I feel like it's a very nice series in that theme if you look for something very light-hearted and maybe a comedy. So yeah, I feel like it still explains it well, and not only telekinesis but generally psychic abilities in general and energy work as well. Now, while we are still on anime theme, I would also recommend you to check out the anime Charlotte, if I say it correctly, but generally the whole anime is basically about the psychic phenomena and about school of psychic generally. I feel like it was very nice, scientifically explained. I feel like there were literally all of the telekinetic types you can think of in a very scientific way described, but generally, I just think it was a very nice series portraying psychic abilities. I didn't generally connect to it on a personal level, but I feel like it was still very nice portrayal of psychic abilities. Generally, if you just want the idea of those psychic abilities in an anime. So that's all I have when it comes to anime, but let's move forward to next movies I watched this year, and we'll be moving slowly towards the spiritual movies generally, rather than just psychic phenomena. Now, so the movies that really affected me spiritually, I think like most of them that I watched this year were from a director Kaufman, and that they were recommended from a friend of mine, and I feel like they really deeply affected me this year, and I feel like one of the most breaking kind of in me movies was a Seduction New York movie, and I feel like I left from watching it kind of speechless. I was feeling things that I could never explain. I've been having kind of a breakdown and kind of unexplainable really feeling about this movie. I feel like it moved me in such an unexplainable way that the whole time after this movie I couldn't explain how I feel. I just knew that I feel a certain way, in a very strong way. It was so reality breaking in a unexplainable really way that I was really inspired to paint at that time, because I was so like full of expression and feeling that I could never really explain, and I still from perspective of time cannot really explain how I felt after watching this movie. It was just such a weird of experience, an emotional spiritual experience for me. So if you really sit down and watch this movie with a full engagement, I feel like you will also be left speechless after watching this, because it is really such a mind overtaking movie that really gets into you. It's really an art form. It's really, this movie is an art. It's like a painting you look at and you feel something and you cannot explain it in any way. This is this type of movie, and if you really look for a certain experience and something really reality breaking, then I really recommend Seduction New York. I feel like this movie has been really something for me this year. Now, from the same director, I would also recommend the movie or ever animation Animalia. I feel like it was really such a also experience of a movie, of an animation. I feel like it is really also worth looking at. I feel like the whole director that is making those movies is also worth looking at generally. I feel like it has really affected me this year. Now, next movie that I would definitely rewatch in the future will be the movie Adaptation. I feel like this movie has been such a nice experience, or rather unexplainable experience. It was weird, it was eccentric, it was, the whole narration has been amazing, and the little plots in it, I feel like it was so amazing. But I feel like it's been such a like also experience, like spiritual emotional experience on me, and I feel like it really connected to me, especially with certain smaller plots and themes in the movie. I don't want to spoiler too much, but it is definitely beautiful movie in a sense, and definitely worth watching if you're looking for a certain experience, especially if it's some kind of emotional, spiritual experience you want to experience, but it will be cool. I feel like this movie is one of my favorites that I watched this year as well, so it's something I would really recommend watching. I feel like it also talks about love, it talks about philosophy, it talks about so much philosophical and unexplained things. Like, I don't even have words to explain those movies with the movies I'm talking about for those past minutes. Like, those movies are unexplainable. You cannot explain the experience you're getting out of them. It's something so unspecified. It's something that really plays like on a keyboard on you, and you cannot really tell how you're feeling after watching the movie. It's something so unspecified. But either way, I feel like this movie has been really such an experience on me this year as well. I also just wanted to add how much I really love a quote from this movie: "You are what you love, not what loves you." Either way, everyone, this is all the movies I watched this year, and every movie I would like to recommend to you. So if you enjoy the video, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know, most importantly, how do you feel about those movies yourself? What is your opinion? Do you find them anyway altering to yourself and your life? And anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope it was interesting for you to watch, and hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye. Love y'all.